This is the number one reason you'll stay stuck at low seven figures in your e-commerce brand and never get the freedom, the money, or the life you started this business for. And it's not your work ethic, it is not your intelligence, it's not your marketing, and it's not even your product. I actually used to think it was me. If I just worked harder, was more productive, read more business books, my business would keep growing. And if it didn't, that must be because I wasn't doing enough. But there was never enough hours to do more and definitely not enough energy. After scaling five different ecom brands, repeating the same pattern over and over, I realized the problem wasn't me personally. It was that I kept building businesses that were never designed to scale without me. What I mean by this, from the outside, your business looks like everything is working. Sales are growing, customers are happy, your brand looks really successful. But inside, while you are proud of what you've built, you're tired. You're constantly second guessing your decisions. You're jumping from big picture strategy to tiny execution gaps, agreeing next steps, answering questions, fixing details, constantly shifting gears just to keep everything moving forward. And if this has you thinking, this is just what it is, this is how you grow an ecom brand, you you're kind of right by what the culture is telling us, but you also know deep down, surely there is a better way. And you're right. And I discovered this after two pivotal events shifted my perspective on what success really looks like and how I measured it. I was COO of a pretty big ecom brand, and we got into some serious financial trouble. We had over 60 staff members and just 2 months of runway left with our cash when I realized what was going on. In a bid to save the business, I threw out everything about how we did what we did, and I rebuilt our operating model from the ground up, like everything. And in this process, what I realized was we could remove 20 headcount and cut our monthly salary cost by 180K, and we'd still hit our sales goals. And so we did it. And we did hit our sales goals. And it was not because we worked harder, it was because our operating model had us working so much smarter. We built the structure the business should have had long before, and then we would never have had to trade people's time to execute our strategy. The second part to the story is that shortly after that, my son left for his overseas experience at 18 years old. He was off into the big wide world for 18 months, and this is when it all hit me. The missed time, the mornings I was already out the door before my kids had even opened their eyes, all those moments, I was never going to be able to get them back. I had built business success, but it also built a business that needed more of my time than I was giving my family. And that is not my definition of success. And it's definitely not the type of success I was aiming to create. And that realization and then regret hit super hard. And to be fair, some days it still does. And I don't want that for anyone. Like, you can never get that time back. And that's when I decided that there had to be a different way to grow ecom brands. That hustle culture was not just necessary to be successful. But if you could operate more efficiently, like we'd proven in that business, you wouldn't have to sacrifice so much time in order to achieve that success. Because right now you have worked so hard to get to this point. And I would argue that that is absolutely what you have to do to hit seven figures. You have to hustle in an ecom brand. You have to prove that there is demand for your product and get it out there. But what I've noticed, and I've had so many of these conversations, is that somewhere in that subconscious part of your brain, you expected that when you hit seven figures, your business would feel easier to run. Things would be more stable. You'd have more time. This would be less like, I don't know what I'm doing, and more like, I got this. But here's the bit they leave out of all those entrepreneurial journeys. Everything that you did to get here to seven figures is not going to get you to eight figures because your business is still designed to grow by trading your time for its success. So if it needs more of you to grow, eventually you're going to hit a ceiling. And if you try and push past it, you'll either break yourself or your business. Because let's be honest, if you had to double your revenue tomorrow, could you double the hours that you are working? Of course not. You are already maxed out. And even if you're not now, you would be doubling your hours. This is the wall that every single founder hits. And the sooner you realize that this is going to cap your growth, the faster you can pivot and change how you're building your business. And then you won't hit it. The team, if your team has grown, but you're still the one like filling in all the gaps between what they're doing, if you have systems, but they still rely on you to kind of be effective and remind people to use them. If your business is getting bigger, but it's getting heavier and heavier, then this is because you are trading your time for your business's success. And that is not success for you. It does not create freedom. It's a really high cost for trading your time for your business's success. And it's not just your time. It's the strategy in your business that you barely have time for. You do when you're exhausted at 11 o'clock at night. It's the marketing ideas you really get around to testing, the category you wanted to expand into 18 months ago, but you and the team haven't had time to get past the design stage. It's what you're not doing because you're too busy holding everything else together. And you know it's happening, but you keep saying, when we just get through this week, when we just get through this launch, when we just implement this fantastic software, then things will calm down and I'll be the leader, design the category, take the holiday. But does that space, that time ever come? No, because you're on to the next thing. Because you only get space when you build your business to create space. And what you do with that space, whether it's strategy, product design, time with your family, Pilates, long holidays, that is entirely up to your definition of success. So, how do you build a business that doesn't trade on your time for its success? This is the least sexy part of building a business, but it is absolutely fundamental to building a profitable and sustainable business that creates freedom for you. It is the systems and structure that allow your business to operate independently of you. And this is the critical bit, the visibility that shows you if those systems and structures are actually working and helping your business. Because that heavy feeling of never quite being on top of everything, it doesn't come from the work you need to do. It comes from trying to stay over everything in your business so nothing is missed. And so your brain is constantly cycling through everything in the business, trying to see if there's any red flags. Did we forget anything? Did everyone remember to do the things they need to do? So when you create the systems and structure that also give you visibility of what is happening and what needs to be done, you can see, are things being effective? Are they not? And you can instantly see if there's going to be any issues and you can address them before they become big challenges for your business. And I know you're going to say you've got systems and structure, but I'm willing to bet you do not have the measures in place which tell you, are they working? Because it's the are they working, that visibility piece of your systems and structure that makes all the difference. You need to measure your internal operations with data, just like you do with marketing and sales. But most ecom brands are not doing this. And if they're doing it, they're not actually looking at the data regularly enough so that it has the impact it should. This means you should be tracking key performance indicators for your operations, such as order fulfillment times, inventory turnover, customer response times, all those little things. And when you implement standardized processes for these routine tasks, your team can execute without like constantly questioning you or each other, which makes them more effective and efficient. And then you also, by doing this, you can see where the bottlenecks are in your business. It gives you insight into areas where you need to pay attention or where you can delegate things. And then you can forecast and plan effectively rather than just having to react when issues arise. And so having measured systems and processes in your business is absolutely going to be a game changer when it comes to hitting 8 figures. This is how your team can start to really drive the business growth without constantly needing your supervision. And if I was chatting to any founder, the one thing that I would say to them to start doing is the processes that you already have in your business, think about how you can measure them. Think about what does success look like. And if you would say, I don't really have any standardized processes, you'll have informal ones. And so where I would start is anywhere that gives you headaches, anywhere inside your business where you seem to constantly have issues or challenges, start there, whether it's factories, customer service, product dispatch, all of that you can measure. Now, I want to be really clear here. I'm not going to say go and get stuck in the weeds of having like 90 things you measure, but there are measures in your business that that can give you a snapshot of a number of things. So for example, how do you measure if a factory is working well for you? You have delivery in full on time to spec, right? So DIFOT. So when a factory accepts a PO, it's got a dispatch date, what the product is, quantity, etc. So what you're doing by default is measuring if they dispatch all the units to spec on time, and the one thing I'll say here is it's dispatch, it's not deliver, because no factory or yourself can control what logistics do. So you're never going to do it on logistics, on delivery time. But you should be factoring in enough time in your dispatch dates that if something were to go wrong, there's still time for it to arrive on time. So with like DIFOT, you would be going, did all the units arrive, right? Everything we ordered, it's there. Is it the right amount of smalls, mediums, larges, or whatever it is that you're ordering? Is it made to spec? Is it the right quality, right fabrics, right seams, whatever? Because if a factory doesn't do this, they're directly impacting your ability to make the money you had planned to make with that product. And so you should know, is my factory doing this? They might only ship to you twice a year, but you should know what your DIFOT is for them. I mean, your DIFOT should sit at 99%. All factories are going to make a mistake at some point in time, but it should be as close to 99% as possible. And so this means you're not making gut feels on how a factory's going or having emotional conversations with them when they dispatch late. You can just go, here's the data. Like the last 3 deliveries have been 88% accurate or 92% accurate. And that directly impacts our ability to make money. Whether they deliver it late, whether they deliver the wrong sizes, like all of that you should have planned out very carefully. And so them not meeting it impacts your business. But this means you can have that conversation without it being emotional. It's just a data-driven negotiation about business. And so this is just one tiny area, right? But you can go, oh my God, how would I measure a factory? You can do it with one piece of data, and your warehouse team or your warehouse person or yourself, whoever it is that's inbounding that product, can easily go, arrived on time. Of course, they're checking off a PO, so you'll know if all the units are there. So there's data like this that is going to make a huge difference in how you're able to address where the challenges are coming from, because at the moment you might not know if where your challenges are coming from, and you never will until you start to measure it. And this is the work that we do inside Million Dollar Vault. We look at how you measure all the common processes. I give you the processes and I give you the resources that you can implement into your business that mean it's really easy to see what's working and what's not. And then we also talk about my $1 million flywheel, which is how in a growing business you create processes, you measure them, and you iterate them as the business grows, and how you can do that and teach your team to do that. So it's a really seamless process. But to hit 8 figures, you can't hustle your way there. You will break yourself or you will break things in your business. You must start to have repeatable processes that are super efficient and super effective. And I know it's not glamorous, but this is what will be a game changer in your business. I hope you love this episode as much as I have. I'm so passionate about helping founders create amazing businesses, but more importantly, wildly successful lives at the same time as they build these wildly successful businesses. And so, if you want to know how you actually create the freedom that you imagine comes from owning a business, please like and subscribe because we're going to be delving into all the details.